Here we are, everybody. I'm Julie Santiago, and please join me in welcoming the incredible, beautiful, wonderful Kathryn. She is one of just the most delightful women and one of our incredible clients. And Kathryn, can you hear me still? It looks like you may be
again.
It looks like you may be frozen, but now you're back. I was just talking about how amazing you are, and now you're back. And
I didn't even get to hear it.
Man. I didn't even get to hear it. And I was saying that you were amazing. You're one of our amazing clients. Kathryn graduated from our program. We were just talking about this before we hit the record button in April 2020, which we're recording this in the summer of 2022. So over 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So would you just give everybody an idea, a little bit about what you do and what led you to our program? And then we're going to talk about all of the insanely amazing shifts that you've made in your life and what your life looks like now. So yeah, tell us about what you do and what led you to us.
So to start out, I am a private practicing obstetrics and gynecologist. I am a chairman of my department and a leader in my hospital. And this started before COVID. So I found the program before COVID and joined before all of the changes that went on. But basically was kind of hitting a wall of being tired. I was tending to play life in victim mode and believing that everything was happening to me instead of by me. And I came across the Facebook post that you were doing where these are the 5 things. And if you hit these 5 things, you're in burnout and here's how I can help. And to be honest, your voice spoke to me. It was just sort of a feeling that you were somebody that I thought I could learn from, hear, listen to, and believe, which I thought was very important. I had already in the year 2019, did we freeze again?
We did, but we're good. We're back. Keep going.
I had already started life coaching for a weight loss program and had learned a lot of mind management through that, but I was still playing in my head. Part of my job is to not be emotional. Part of my job is to not even recognize that I have emotions, because my emotions shouldn't play a role in how I take care of my patients. I'm learning emotions and their histories. And you're taught from the very beginning in medical training to stuff it all down. It doesn't belong in this world right now. And so I live a lot in my head. I do not live in my heart. Or I should say I did live a lot in my head and I did not live in my heart. But this program spoke to me in that it was a way for me to learn to recognize my emotions, to honor them and know that they had a place, and to recognize how I became the person that I am now. What happened in my life to direct me to the steps that I took and the personality choices that I had and the patterns that I do in my life and choices on a daily basis. And that it happened because of things that I might have been exposed to or had experienced in my lifetime, in not necessarily a negative, this is a bad thing, but in it explains why I'm who I am today.
Yeah.
Now, what do I want to do about that? Again, it's all about my journey in all of this is how do I take back control over who I am and how I show up in life.
I love that. And I think for any woman listening to you who's a powerful, successful woman, we really want to maintain control of our lives. And so, okay, so you are successful, you are successful, you were successful, you'd fought, you're a doctor, you're a leader, right? All of these things.
But I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anymore. I was tired. I was just going through the motions. Every day was exactly the same as the day before. And all of my personal life was just sort of shoved in a corner and not really looked at because I was so focused on getting things done at work that I had no energy or time for anything else.
Huge. So you were so focused on work. Work was getting all of you. You had shoved your entire personal life, and it sounds like some of your health too, right? Into the corner. So personal life, purpose, your own enjoyment was all shoved in the corner because you were too tired to even think about it.
Mhm.
Okay. So if we saw you on the outside in 2020, when you joined the program 2 years ago, what would we have seen?
A together leader who gets her job done, who takes care of her patients, who's kind and compassionate and does her job. And all
Amazing.
that stuff at home behind the scenes when the door closes and the computer gets turned off and the patients go away, no one would have ever seen.
Mm. And behind the scenes, and this is vulnerable. So if you're open to sharing this,
Mhm.
if we were to have seen behind the scenes on what was really happening and how you were really feeling.
I was mentally exhausted.
Yeah.
I was lonely, sad,
Hmm.
pitying myself for the choices that I had made and how life had done this to me,
Yeah.
and not taking ownership of anything or even looking for another outcome, looking for a new way to do something. What did I get out of this program is the ability to look and say, well, wait, so this might be reality at the moment if I choose to look at it this way, but how else could I look at it? What else can I do?
Hmm.
How else can I dream to be something different?
Hmm.
So in the meantime, I have since altered my schedule, cut back on my obstetrics. I was really going to stop it, but I decided that it's a big reason why I went into the job I went into. This career is because I am a conduit for souls into the world, and I couldn't quite close it completely. So that means my job is not done. So I'm continuing.
Yeah.
And even saying that in that way prior to this program would have been so foreign for me. So there's still this like piece of me that, if you want to call it, if somebody wants to look at this and say the woo-woo part of things, doesn't quite want to completely embrace it. And that's the work I'm still doing, because there's a part of me that believes it and a part of me that doesn't want to say that I believe it.
Yeah. I love that you're speaking to this. I'm going to speak to this, and then I want to loop back to what you just said, because I think you just said something really beautiful. But I think what you're touching on is something so huge, especially for women who are in really corporate, really logical, practical jobs, whether that's the medical field, right, in the industry like you are, finance, engineering, right, like, I mean, the corporate world, right, the corporate world. And so it sounds like there's a part of you, Kathryn, that
You froze.
that's okay. I think we're here. I saw that it froze, so I slowed down a little bit. I think it sounds like there was this part of you that was cutting out emotions. Let's see. I'm gonna make sure everybody can still hear. Kathryn, are you still with me? All right, there you are. You're back. You're back. No, it's okay. Are you at work right now?
I am at work.
It's so funny. We're like talking about this and the internet's like, I don't know about this. Are we going to let them really talk about this right now?
Yes, we are.
We're doing it. Oh, the powers.
Try as much as you want to block it, but it's happening.
It's happening. So, okay. So you are a woman who works in this incredibly male dominated and corporate world, right? Even in the work you're doing, bringing babies into the world, bringing souls into the world. And so there's a part of you that, like, it sounds like, was really shutting off your spiritual side, your feminine side, your emotional side, and you were really dried up in that way.
Yes.
And so you thought about leaving, but let's just fast forward and tell us what does life look like now? And then we'll talk about some of the bridge pieces and how you got there. And then you can share some of your wisdom. So give us a glimpse of what does life look like now on the outside if I were to see you, and where are you now?
So I have a practice where I sort of split the difference between gynecology and OB. I do significantly less OB than I did before. I share call with an outside group so that I'm not required to be 24/7, 7 days a week, 30 days a month on. I get to pick and choose when I want to come in on my days off and do deliveries for patients if I'm connected enough to want to do that. I am still working through a little bit of the what does it look like in the future? but that means hiring more people. And so I had to get my partner on board with that. And that's something we are now focused on for the next 2 years, is hiring more people so that I can step back and be the teacher and the person who has the knowledge to train them to take over that part of the business. So
Wow.
personal life wise, I routinely go back to what 3 feelings did I feel today and why, constantly. I through the big major years of COVID, it was difficult. I realized I have anxiety that I never really thought I had before because it was so blocked by everything else. So learning to manage my way through that. But I am still the chairman of my department. As a woman, I have been the chairman now for 6 years of my department, and I have just been asked to take part and be the state physician dyad partner with the vice president of our hospital association statewide on the national committee. So now I have a bigger leadership. And I think my ability to lead and feel comfortable leading has changed because of this program. This whole bit about understanding my masculine and feminine and how do I want to approach interacting with people that maybe need a conversation about their behavior or need a conversation about their charting or need a conversation about anything going on. How do I problem solve is completely different now than the masculine way that I used to just burst in and try to solve it by pushing everybody in my own direction, because it's the only thing I knew how to do.
What do you think has changed in that? So what's your new approach? What allows you to be in relationship with people in that different way?
I am much more ready to wonder why they might be responding the way they're responding or behaving the way they're responding, and to have a little more compassion for whatever might be happening in their life that's bringing them in that direction. But I am also less personally responsible for their behavior, meaning their behavior is their behavior, not mine. It's not a reflection of me. And that has actually made a change in how I care for my patients. I used to get so sucked into the emotional drama, even though I couldn't show it. I was sucked into the emotional drama of what was going on, and anything that they succeeded or didn't succeed on was a reflection on me.
It's huge.
And now it's a lot easier to recognize when I'm getting sucked down that path and pull myself back. And it's a lot easier to say, okay, this is not my story, this is their story. How can I help them work through their story? But they still ultimately are the ones that have to do it.
I love what you're talking about, Kathryn, because it's the essence of boundaries.
Yes.
It's boundaries.
Which I had none of before.
You had no boundaries before. And so of course you were exhausted, right? And we work with so many women, you know this from being in the community of women, right? Of these powerful women who are naturally geared towards helping others, serving others, wanting to lead, but like don't know how to do it in a way that they don't take on everything of everybody else. So what a paradox you were in, right? You're in a physician role, like you're a healer, right? You're a doctor, you're the chairman of your department, you're a leader, but you couldn't show emotion, okay? But you were simultaneously taking on everybody else's emotions. And you were so involved in that, your whole life, your whole personal life was like over here in a corner because this was so intense. And to go from that to saying, okay, now, by the way, I have rewritten my hours. I get to choose to work when I want to work and do what I want to do. I'm still the chairman. Now I was just invited to be a state physician partnership with leadership. Like this is like huge as a woman in the end, like you keep leading, you keep rising. You're leading your team in a whole new way, which is from a place of empathy and connection rather than powering over them. And you know how to set boundaries so you can do good work in the world without it taking over you.
Correct. So now I actually have time. I have, the first thing that I think was the hardest for me to figure out how to do, but has been the best thing I could possibly do, is I wake up in the morning automatically at the same time every morning, And I have 1 to 2 hours where I have my cup of coffee and I sit and I do my little meditation. And if I don't feel like meditating that day, I don't, but I have me time. And I used to be the person that woke up, showered, changed, grabbed my stuff, ran out the door, got breakfast on the way to work, and walked into the office in time to work.
And now you spend 2
And I
hours.
routinely have an hour to 2 hours in the morning. That's my time.
Uh-huh. So I want to ask you a question, because there's probably women. So I'm just like, this is flipping amazing. Of course, this is the life you're living right now. And there's probably women who are listening to you that's like, who were like you were 2 years ago before you found us. And you're like, oh yeah, must be nice for her. She can do that, but I can't. Because if I had told you 2 years ago, before you learned what you learned, that you could actually have the life you live right now, you could have an hour or two in the morning. It's possible. You just need to be taught how. You could actually create the hours you want to create. You can actually not have to step back from your whole business. You can actually just learn how to get more support. Like if I had told you all these things 2 years ago, what would you have thought?
My first thought would have been, you've got to be kidding. There's no way. I don't have any control over anything.
That's huge. So you would have thought, there's no way I can change this. I don't have control over this.
Or it's going to be too hard to change it. Or I can't because I can't do that. Again, that's me being victim to what's going on around me and not taking on the fact that I get to choose what I do. Every choice has a consequence, but I get to choose and I get to pick the consequences that I have to live with instead of someone else picking them for me.
This is tremendous. Okay, so you would have thought, there's no way, this is impossible. I don't have a choice, or it's going to be way too hard. Right. And so when you found us, did you feel that there was actually hope?
Yes. And it was more of there was hope, and there was, okay, this person gets it. I mean, you came from a corporate career, you totally get it.
Yeah.
And the coaches that you have working for you get it. So everybody goes at their own pace. Everybody learns at their own pace. And this idea that it has to happen in like a week or a month or a year is completely, I want to say it's a masculine set rule, but, or we all set it as our own rule.
Yeah.
When I let go of that and I said, you know what, I will figure it out over time by doing what's one thing I can do today that's a little bit better than yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing that. I mean, there's still lots of little baby step movements, and it may not happen tomorrow, but it happened for the last week. And I'm going to celebrate that every minute of the day.
You know what I want to say that we haven't talked about yet, that I want to reflect to you and to the women and people who are watching this, for those of you who didn't know Kathryn 2+ years ago, there is such a level of compassion that I hear for yourself in this conversation.
That's been a major work for me over probably the last 6 months or so. That's been my focus, was relationship with myself, compassion with myself, love with myself. One of my goals through all of this was to be in a relationship, which I'm not in yet, because I realized this year that I didn't have a good enough relationship with myself. And if I wasn't in enough relationship with myself, how could I really, truly be in relationship with somebody else?
My God. And so you're laying the foundation now of, you're committed to your growth and to this way of living, however long it takes.
Correct.
And like what you're learning, you are now sharing with other people, directly and indirectly, right? As a leader. And then, okay, now I want a relationship. This is the first piece. Like, okay, I want my personal life, like, you know, is important. It's just as important. How do we bring these two things back into harmony? And when I heard you say, this isn't about like, let me follow this 5-step plan to like fall in love. It's like, oh, I realize this is actually all about my relationship with myself. So it kind of comes back to that same piece that you're talking about today around being in choice. You actually have choice. But nothing out here has to change, right? You thought you were going to leave your job, but you didn't leave your job, right? You thought you were going to step down. You didn't, right? You thought you were going to, all these things, you didn't. And And what you're talking about is the power of the inner journey. The power of the inner journey. That it's not a 5-step process. It's not a magical fix. It's a commitment to you living in a totally different way.
And it's also and it's not a linear journey. It's absolutely not a linear journey. Whether you want to say that it's hills and valleys, or whether you want to say that it's a cyclone, or whether you want to say that it's who knows what, it's not a linear journey. And I like in the program, there's the cyclone. I call it a cyclone because in me, that's the feeling I get from
I like that. The spiral, the cyclone.
But that all of the things that you're working on vertically go up the spiral, and you just keep coming across them at different levels. Kind of like people could describe it as peeling the onion, and you get to a deeper layer of the onion. But to me, it's the cyclone, because I can tell that I've hit a different level of it, and it's coming around because there's something else I'm supposed to learn from it. I didn't quite get it all the last time, so I'm going to get a new piece of it today. And
I like that you're talking about this, especially right now. This is the last kind of big point that I want to bring up here, because I think it's really helpful for powerful, successful women. It takes a lot to say, I'm going to hire someone else to help me.
oh yeah.
It takes a lot to say, I need help. I remember working, on Wall Street, on the trading floor, and hearing about life coaches and laughing, being like, people need coaching to help them with their life, right? And like, you've gone through a tremendous journey. Like, now, not only are you, right, doing the work you're doing now, like you have all these other certifications, right? And you've been on your own weight loss journey. Like, you're doing all of these things, right, to also be able to help other people through different ways. What did it take for you to finally be like, okay, even though I look like that really successful doctor on the outside, like, what did it take for you to get to the point where you were willing to say, I actually need to learn from somebody else? Like, there's a part of my life that I haven't figured out yet, and I'm gonna learn from somebody else. Like, what did it take for you?
Both of the programs, the one I did in the beginning of 19 for weight loss and this program, were honestly, as weird as it sounds, instinct answers. They were, that resonates so much inside of me and feels so true that I don't know how I cannot do this.
You just knew.
And I signed up and went, well, if it's 3 months of my time and I don't get anything out of it, that's on me, but I can learn something from here that I can take forward. And if the answer is that I ended and I'm in a significantly better place, then that's even better. And I was. For people who might be listening, the support that I received from the program during COVID, you guys sent me flowers when I was miserable because of COVID. You gave me an extra month when I was totally swamped with the mental capacity of what was going on during COVID. So there were so many things just from a loving perspective of how can we help you that came out of this program, that it was amazing. I did want to say that one of the things you learn in this program, the very beginning, that's sort of messy, is how to read the things that you used to think were your strengths. And when you overdo the strengths, they actually become weaknesses. And learning to understand when you're using them as a strength and when they're becoming weakness, and being able to adjust and understand it and have compassion for yourself to know, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this, because that's that pattern. And I always go into that pattern in this situation. Okay, what can I do to change now? Now that I've recognized it, there's nothing wrong with it. It just is what it is. Where do I go now?
Yes. I like that you're saying this. This is kind of like sneak peek behind the scenes of what we teach in the program, which is like, this is why, right? To-dos or strategies or time management tools don't actually heal burnout, right? It's so much like, until we recognize the patterns that are contributing,
creating it.
It's like, oh, here I am again. Oh, here's the thing I do. Oh, I know myself well enough to do this. Here I am again. I'm doing this thing. Now I have the tool to change it. Now I have the awareness to change it. And now I have the tool to change it. Because unless we have the awareness and the tools, and I know this is like what you're exemplifying so much, unless we have the awareness, right? And then the ability to shift that awareness, we will always think that the outside is the problem.
Correct. That once you have the awareness, then you realize, oh, I can change this right now, and no one else has to change.
Nobody else has to change. No job has to change, right? No circumstance has to change. No relationship has to change. So many of the women like you come in and think the job is the issue, or maybe they love their work like you do. You loved aspects of your work, but like you just don't see how it's possible to keep going because based on the circumstances, it feels untenable, right? And what Kathryn is saying so beautifully is that, you know, the level of awareness that gets to happen when you realize how you're contributing to those circumstances and then start to shift them to make different decisions, right? Kathryn literally talked about how she went from being exhausted and really just down on the inside, looking super successful on the outside, but her personal life was being pushed off to the side, to now creating this life where she's rising in her leadership, right? Where she continues to work and like work on her personal life and herself. She's literally spending an hour to 2 hours by herself every morning and not jumping out the door to look at her phone. And before, she thought that those things were out of her control. Like she thought they were out of her control. And what she's learned is how to actually take control back of her life, to take the power back in her life. And that's what we're committed to doing. So I'm going to invite all of you who are watching, if you want to have a conversation with our team about whether or not our program is right for you, we will tell you honestly if we think you're a good fit. If we know that we can help you, we'll invite you in. If we don't think we're the right people, we'll tell you that too. You can book a call with our team. It's juliesantiago.com/apply. Okay, you'll book a breakthrough call with our team. The calls are about 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, an hour. And we'll take you through a really cool exercise where you'll get to see what's not working and then see where your life could be, right? On the other side. So book a call was the first thing that Kathryn did that helped her enter into our world. And Kathryn, I'm just so grateful that you're in our community, that you continue to be such a pillar of light inside of our community, and wisdom and peace and grace and groundedness. Is there anything final you want to say to the people watching or listening? Even if it's just like a little, like if you were talking to a woman, maybe where you were all those years ago, what do you want her to know about taking the next right step?
I would tell her to book the call for the initial conversation. Listen to yourself, listen to what your body is doing. If you're leaning into it, if you are at all finding any focus of hope in it, it's worth doing. It's worth it 100% to figure out yourself. Growth is never clean and pretty, because growth means that you have to recognize the good and the bad, or the ugly and the pretty, or the, you know, salty and sweet. I mean, you have to figure out that you are both and come to terms with that, and then decide what you want to change. And I've always been all about learning to take back control of my own life. And I want you to know that you have the option to do that too.
Thank you so much for your wisdom, Kathryn. I love you. I love your salty. I love your sweet. I can't wait to hug you in person soon. And to all of you watching, you can book a breakthrough call with our team, juliesantiago.com/apply. And please join me in thanking Kathryn for today and sharing her journey with us all. Kathryn, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Love you so much. Bye, sweets.
Bye.